How many people took some kind of trip this summer? A trip? Any kind of a trip? Where did you go, Ted?
Well, I'm going up to Vancouver, Washington.
Vancouver. Okay. A long trip. Who else? What other trips do we have?
I just came back from Missouri.
Missouri. Any more trips around here? No trips? Trips?
I just got back from Italy and
Italy.
Vermont.
Italy and Vermont. Okay. All right. Who else took a trip?
Montana and Wyoming.
Montana and Wyoming. Okay. Didn't any of the guys in this room take a trip? Gentlemen, here we go.
Maine and Nova Scotia.
Maine and Nova. Everybody went north. Why did that happen?
New York and New Hampshire.
New York and New Hampshire.
Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay. One dedicated Southerner. Okay. All right. One more. Okay.
Miami and Captiva.
Miami and Captiva. And where is Captiva? Oh, okay. Very well.
And Cancun.
And Cancun. Okay, that's really south.
I moved here.
Okay, a trip here. Very well. You're very wise. A very good thing to do. Okay, so trips. Lots of different exciting, fun trips. Now, I have another question. How many people have read The Hobbit, the book The Hobbit? And how many people saw the movie? So lots of people kind of know what the story is all about. And who can tell me, don't call it out, just raise your hand, who can tell me the book The Hobbit has The Hobbit as the big title, and then there's a little title underneath? Who remembers what that little title is? Who's the youngest person here who remembers what the little title is?
I think it's The Unexpected Journey.
That's right, The Unexpected Journey. So that brings me to another question. What is the difference between a trip and a journey? I want you to think about that and tell the person next to you what you think. What's the difference between a trip and a journey? Okay. Anybody got a good answer they want to try out on everybody? The difference between a trip and a journey. Here's one back here. Okay. Just pass that microphone on back, would you, Rick? Thanks.
A trip is a chapter in a book. A journey is the book.
Okay, okay. A trip is a chapter, and a journey is the whole book. That is very poetic. I like that, but it's not quite what I had in mind. So I'm going to keep going. How about Maria?
A trip is when you go somewhere, but a journey you can stay in place and have.
That's very true. Yeah, you always go somewhere on a trip, but on a journey, sometimes you can take a journey right in place. Like when somebody calls you and the doctor calls and says, there's something wrong, and you've got to veer off on a journey of being sick. You stay exactly where you are, but you're on a journey, right? It's an inside journey. What else? Anybody other ideas?
A trip is seeking pleasure, and a journey is seeking knowledge.
Oh, there! Now that's getting closer to the sermonic point here. So, a trip is seeking pleasure, going to see what you can see, but a journey is seeking knowledge. Okay? Are we getting closer? Did you want to have something, Mary?
A trip, you end back where you were. A journey, you end up somewhere else.
Ooh, that's good. Okay, a trip, you end up someplace else, or you end up maybe a different kind of person. I mean, a journey. Did I say that right?
A trip is where you know pretty much where you're going, and a journey is when you start off somewhere and then look back and say, oh, I didn't know I was going to be there.
Okay, all right, that's good. You guys are so wise. You should be preaching more often.
With a trip, you can be going in any direction, even like down into a valley for a while. But with a journey, it's usually uphill, but you also gain higher ground.
Okay. Journeys are harder work than trips. Yeah, right. Okay, anybody else want to add to our collected wisdom here on journeys and trips? the shorthand I was kind of thinking to myself is that a trip you go to for pleasure, for fun, to see something new, for laughs. But in a journey, you learn something. You go to learn something. Or sometimes trips start out as trips and become journeys. You come back different from how you started. You come back knowing more. You come back with greater compassion. You come back understanding more deeply what the world is really like and what life is really like. So, Bilbo went on an unexpected journey and he went to kill a dragon, right? That was the point of the whole thing. And how do we know that Bilbo's was a journey, not a trip? Does anybody remember the book or the movie well enough to know? How did we know that Bilbo ended up on a journey, that he came back different from how he started, that he learned something new? Is there somebody over there? Okay, I'll go back this way first. How do we remember? How did you remember? How did you notice that?
At the end, he's a completely different person.
Yeah.
Like, he used to be timid, and then he just comes back, and he's more vibrant, and he views the world as he's seen it now.
Okay, all right. He comes back more vibrant, sees the world in a different way. There's a...
Gandalf made him go. He didn't want to go. And they called him a burglar, and he's like, I'm not a burglar,
All
but
right.
he becomes a burglar, actually.
He becomes the burglar, but he also becomes a very self-reliant person, right? He has to figure out how to get him out of that place with the spiders. That hasn't happened in the movie yet, but it will. The next movie. Did you want to say something? No. Okay. So there's a place in. So when you're making 3 movies out of one book, you have to make your point a little earlier than is made in the book. So see if you can remember this. At the very end of the Hobbit movie, Bilbo, who's been kind of, he has not particularly liked Thorin Oakenshield, the leader, and he doesn't like dwarves, and he's really had a hard time with the whole thing. But at the very end, where they're up the trees and those horrible wolves are snapping at them, and the eagles are not yet there to rescue them, Bilbo goes back to rescue Thorin. You remember that? And Gandalf, who must be sitting in another tree, looks at him with a, I knew you had it in you, smile on his face. You remember that? And that's where we know that this trip for Bilbo has turned into a journey in the movie. So if you see the movie again, see if you see that. One very poignant, special, very well acted place in that movie. So I would venture to guess that no one here has killed a dragon or been treed by wolves or any of those other kinds of things, but I'll bet that besides the trips you all have been on, that some of you are also on journeys of one kind or another. So I went on a trip this summer to Washington, D.C., but it was really a journey because my parents are getting too old to take care of themselves anymore, and my brother and sister and I helped them move into a place called assisted living where they would get more care. For them, it was moving from one building in a community to another building in a community. So it was a very short trip. But I got to tell you, it is a very long journey. And we kids who are now adults and are more and more taking responsibility for our parents, that it's a journey for us too. We're learning to get along differently. We're learning to let each other be who we are and not fuss so much as we did when we were kids. And to help my parents make that journey. So I feel like these days, every time I go to Washington, I'm rejoining this journey about learning how to be a new kind of person in this ongoing saga of my family. Not all the journeys involve trips, as somebody pointed out. You can get a letter or a phone call that starts you on a journey. You've gotten into a new school, the doctor calls with bad news, somebody's died, you've got a new job. You can be on an inner journey without moving at all because you're in therapy or because you've had a spiritual experience or something's happened to shake your foundations of understanding the world so much that you just have to start to build it all back up from the beginning. Anybody relate to that? I won't make you tell the details in public, but those are hard times in lives, but they are very important journeys. So now I want you to think for a minute about some of the trips you've taken and what you learned and how you grew and how you came back different. It might have been a journey that involved leaving home, or maybe it didn't. It might be a little thing, something you learned in a new place, or it might be a big thing. You developed a new kind of compassion. Think about that. And if you came with somebody this morning, perhaps you can tell them on the way home about the journey you've been on. And if you came by yourself, maybe you can write it down or call someone later today and share that with them. And now we'll take the offering.